Blessings, namaste, and love, everyone. I'm Spiritualist, Psychic, Astrologer, and Medium Sette. Once again, thank you for allowing me this opportunity to share with you my astrological and spiritual insights. And in this segment, we will discuss the potentialities for the month of October 2021. Now, we begin October with a Mercury retrograde. Mercury moved retrograde on September 27th. It will remain retrograde until October 18th. And remember, as I've spoken of in the past, it's not until Mercury moves past the point at which it moved retrograde are we completely out of the retrograde influences, and that will be on November 2nd. Now remember, all astrological phenomena do serve a greater purpose when we allow ourselves to recognize how to properly work with the energy. Mercury retrograde, it's a time for us to embrace all the RE words. Remembering, reconnecting, reviewing, reflecting, rewriting, all those elements are what we engage in during a Mercury retrograde phase. Now, this Mercury retrograde is in the sign of Libra. So because it's in the sign of Libra, or rather we look to the sign where the retrograde occurs as to how to understand what we need to reconnect with or remember. Libra, among many, many things, is a sign that represents creativity, the artist, the musician. I've emphasized many times that creativity is not specific to art and music. Every one of us are creative beings. We have a creative potential that is very unique to our persona. Perhaps during this retrograde, allow yourselves to reconnect, reflect, and perhaps remember what is your unique element of creative expression in whatever form that might be. There's no wrong or right when we understand this energy. Reconnect, remember things that maybe you may have enjoyed at one time that allowed you to really tap into your own creative potential. Many times during my experiences, whether it be with a group event or on a one-on-one situation, spirit energy comes through, a loved one energy comes through, and inspires an individual to remember something that they enjoyed creatively that they got away from. It's another opportunity at this Mercury retrograde in the sign which represents creativity, which is Libra. Libra also represents nature and the natural world. When we enjoy time in nature, we have the opportunity to fully connect with spirit. Spirit is very present in nature and the natural world. This is an opportunity, this Mercury retrograde is an opportunity to remember that higher knowing, that spirit is very present while we enjoy time in nature, and to reconnect with spirit. If you've gotten away from anything spiritual, your own sense of spirituality and whatever that might be, it's a time to enjoy being in nature and reconnecting with spirit and remembering those qualities. Also remembering how nature innately creates a balance. We are very much part of nature. We are very much natural beings. And so much information that can help us in terms of inspiring us on our journeys is very present in nature. And in the ancient teachings of the Tao Te Ching, many of these concepts are touched upon and elaborated upon. So perhaps, if it resonates with you, reflect on the teachings of the Tao Te Ching and how in nature are so many lessons for us to remember and be reminded of, especially the understanding of creating balance in our own lives. Remember, nature creates, whenever there is an imbalance, nature will innately create a balance. We have the ability to very much be the same. We've just perhaps many times forgotten about it. So allow yourself to remember to incorporate natural elements into your own existence, whatever way that might resonate for you. This Libra element, this Libra quality is very present, especially as we now approach our next new moon, which is on October 6th. Now, I always touch upon that we have prior to the new moon, the balsamic moon phase, which is the last stage of the lunar cycle. It is the time of the dark moon. That period begins on October 2nd, and I always like to touch upon the exact time. And for that, it's 5:38 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. That begins the time for us to adequately prepare, clear the slate for the coming lunar cycle. Our next new moon, which is on October 6th, and it's at 7:05 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, is in the sign of Libra. Remember, wherever anything astrologically falls in your astrological chart, personally, that will really be a little bit more specific as to what area in your life all of this energy is concentrated. So I do offer just some general suggestions to give you a point of reference as to how to really make the most of this energy. The new moon being in the sign of Libra, it's a wonderful opportunity to really begin any new creative ventures in whatever form that might be. Remember, as I said, creativity is not specific to only art or music. Creativity is multifaceted. If you have been desiring to begin a new creative endeavor, begin so on this new moon. Also, perhaps incorporate a spiritual regimen where you are connecting with, or rather where you are allowing yourself to be present, to be in nature and connect with spirit, and perhaps to also incorporate the natural elements, the constituents of nature into your homes, especially as we approach the winter time frame, when we do dedicate and we enjoy much more time inside the home. Part of what we embrace during when the sun transits the sign of Libra is to welcome nature into our homes as we prepare for the winter time frame. And also, as I said, Libra is about incorporating and creating, establishing a balance. Perhaps on the dark moon phase, if you've recognized there are some imbalances in your life, honor where those imbalances may be. Allow yourself to be guided as to how to correct the imbalance and establish a balance, especially at the time of the new moon. Libra, connected with nature. Also, there is an abundance of healing qualities and properties in nature and the natural world. And during these most auspicious times, we are very much inspired to really embrace these innate abilities that we have, especially within ourselves, to heal the physical form. The physical form, when permitted to do so and supported properly, will heal itself. Perfect example, just look what happens when you get a paper cut. You just kind of leave it alone and the body will do what it needs to do. And to be so, it needs to be incorporated, or rather supported properly. Now these exercises are very unique and specific to us, and I always inspire you to just explore whatever may resonate with you on a personal level, but I do suggest to just consider the opportunity or the possibilities of the abundance of healing properties that we enjoy when in nature. You know, if you're ever feeling experiences where you're just overwhelmed by anything, enjoy some quiet time in nature and just observe how spirit will ease your mind and share with you inspiration, insights, and knowing. As I said, spirit is very present in nature. So whenever perhaps you feel there is something troubling you, allow yourself to just enjoy some quiet time in nature, quiet the mind, and allow yourself to recognize what spirit shares with you to inspire you on your journey. Also, to perhaps at this new moon, if you're not recognizing your own unique creative potential, ask to be guided. Ask spirit to show you your own individual creativity. Creativity is the ability to, or rather, when the imagination is stimulated, those ideas are very much fortified, and then we demonstrate and bring those ideas and that imagination to form. That is a very rudimentary explanation of the creative process. But as I said, we are creative beings, and every one of us has a unique creative element. Just many times we need to be reminded of what that might be. Now we have our next full moon, which will take place on October 20th at 10:56 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Now this specific full moon, it's in the sign of Aries. One of the many challenges, if you will, with the Aries persona is the constituent to, or rather the challenge, if you will, to follow through with whatever it is that we set out to do. Remember, Aries begins the tropical zodiac. It initiates. Its challenge is to follow through with whatever it is that has been initiated. So at this full moon, I would suggest to just reflect on, perhaps, is there anything in your lives that you have not followed through with, that perhaps that you began that hasn't been completed? Dedicate the time to be so on this full moon and after the full moon, to energize and stimulate whatever it is that you need to carry on with, whatever needs to be completed. Dedicate this full moon to achieving that goal. Also, if you find that perhaps for whatever reason, some of us sometimes we procrastinate, and that's not a judgment when I suggest that we recognize that, but to honor that. If you do find that you are perhaps procrastinating for whatever reason that might be, allow yourselves to reflect on that, and perhaps use this full moon to release that characteristic. Remember, full moons are also a time of a release. We can employ the energy of the full moon to release whatever no longer serves a purpose for us. So if you do find yourself challenged that you're not following through with whatever it is that you set out to do, employ this full moon to release that quality. On October 23rd, the sun will move into the sign of Scorpio. Scorpio, it's a water sign. It is the sign, one of the signs that are very connected with spirit and the spirit realm. During this time of year when the sun transits into Scorpio, I may not have mentioned, on October 23rd at 12:52 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time is the exact moment when the sun transits into the sign of Scorpio. When the sign is in Scorpio, especially around the time of Halloween, Samhain, it's a time for us to honor our loved ones who have transitioned into the spirit realm. It's also a time for us to honor our own personal, unique connections with spirits, to embrace our intuitive psychic potential. Every one of us has the ability to connect energetically, psychically, on a psychic level. It doesn't indicate that every one of us is set out to conduct psychic readings, if you will, but for us to remember our connections with spirit, and that spirit is present to guide us, just as our loved ones who have transitioned into the spirit realm are, even though they're no longer in human overcoat, we are still energetically connected with them, and they are very present throughout our existence to continually guide us and to inspire us. This is why during this time where we honor our loved ones who have transitioned into the spirit realm, and we also honor our connections that are ever present with our loved ones, as well as our spirit guides, angels, whatever that might be for you personally. We often hear that during this time the veil between the worlds is very thin, and as I've been observing it, the veil has been very thin continually as we are progressing through these most auspicious times. And yes, throughout the year we're always inspired to remember our connection with the spirit realm, a little bit more so as we progress during this time, especially with the sun in Scorpio. Now, at the end of this month, on October 30th, incidentally the day before Halloween, Mars, the planet of energy, will transit into the sign of Scorpio. So remember, wherever Mars transits, it energizes. So with the sun being in Scorpio, Mars, the secondary ruler of Scorpio, the primary ruler of Scorpio is Pluto. Mars is the secondary ruler of Scorpio. That passage is very much energizing the Scorpio elements that I just referred to. Scorpio is also the sign of an individual who has a very strong ability to heal. Now, that doesn't mean that every Scorpio will have the potential to be a healer. And as Mars transits this sign, we are once more reminded that we have the ability to certainly heal ourselves. Again, these are very specific and unique components to our individual being. It may not necessarily be right or wrong for everyone, but I always suggest to really recognize these powerful qualities that we have within ourselves. There's so much information out there, and one publication that I always inspire us to recognize, or rather to embrace the alternative understandings, is the progressive material created by Louise Hay in her book, You Can Heal Your Life. As the sun transits the sign of Scorpio, as well as Mars in Scorpio, perhaps if it resonates with you, explore that alternative material. I remember first being introduced to this material, it was probably in the late 80s, and actually Louise Hay is very much someone to really admire, because when she created the material, it was very controversial, very out there, if you will, and nobody wanted to publish it. So what did Louise Hay do? She created her own publishing company. I tell you, there's a lesson to be learned there in terms of determination. And if I'm remembering correctly, she was in her 60s when she began that journey. So certainly never feel that you're too old for anything. That is a perfect example how with discipline and determination and dedication and drive, regardless of our chronicle age, we can always accomplish some of our greatest desires. So once again, everyone, I thank you for allowing me this opportunity to share with you some of the many, many astrological possibilities that take place during the month of October. We are moving so very quickly through this year. I will be returning to the mystical moon in November. I believe my first day of sessions is November 15th. The schedule is already filling up. If you'd like for us to enjoy some one-on-one private time together, reach out to the centers. They'll schedule our time together, and I always look forward to a most blessed experience and sharing all these wonderful insights during these most extraordinary times, and inspiring every one of us to recognize we have such a great, unique potential. All we need to do is to choose to recognize whatever that might be. Once again, I thank you for this opportunity. Stay in the light, forever in a place of love, and we will connect again very, very soon. Many blessings.